I think that people have to have the tough conversations, whether it's at Thanksgiving or the parent has to sit there and say, this is what I want. Because whatever animosities or tensions there might have been growing up, it will show up when the person's gone.
Hello. Today we have a really important conversation with you. It is with Amber Saunders, who is the founder of the Saunders firm. She is a legacy and estate planning lawyer for business owners and humans. And so many of us are afraid to talk about death. We're afraid to think about death. And so we avoid the most important conversations with our loved ones about planning for and preparing to carry out their wishes after they're gone. And in today's episode, we talk about the elements of estate planning that need to be done the minute you graduate from living in your parents' house. You may not have these things in place yet. The things we need to be doing once we have children and once we start to gather assets. But what I love the most about this conversation is it is not actually about assets. And as you know, my work about money goes so much deeper than money, and Amber is totally on the same page. This is about legacy. This is about what matters. This is about love. And this is about family and relationship. And if you can get the things dialed in that we talk about in this conversation, you are going to set yourself and your loved ones up for generations of plenty. Enjoy the episode with Amber Saunders. Welcome to Plenty. I'm your host, Kate Northrup, and together we are going on a journey to help you have an incredible relationship with money, time, and energy, and to have abundance on every possible level. Every week, we're going to dive in with experts and insights to help you unlock a life of plenty. Let's go fill our cups.
Please note that the opinions and perspectives of the guests on the Plenty podcast are not necessarily reflective of the opinions and perspectives of Kate Northrup or anyone who works within the Kate Northrup brand.
Hey, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, end of life.
Yeah.
Right? It's something that people avoid thinking about, people avoid talking about. We're worried that bringing it up is going to make other people feel uncomfortable, feel sad, and yet this is, or feel resentful. Like there's so many feelings around what you do. And I want to know, like, out of all the lawyer things you could have chosen, why estates?
It was not my favorite class in school. It was very boring. I did not think I was going to do it. And then my grandmother got dementia. And she had a stroke when I was probably in college. And she's the only person who I knew who did any estate planning, but I didn't know that's what it was. So like my great-grandmother bought this house in Boston, gave it to my grandmother, or put it in her name. And then she stayed upstairs, my grandmother and my mother and everyone in the middle. And then my great-grandmother passed. It was easy. My grandmother had the house. My grandmother put it in my mother and my uncle's name. They had the house, were able to take care of my grandparents. My grandmother passed away in her house. My grandfather, my step-grandfather, everybody in that house, because we had them all live together. She had long-term care insurance, healthcare directive, power, all of those things. She did everything. And then like within a 3-year period, everyone on that side of the family passed away. It was like we were going to a funeral every 5 months. And so I saw how easy it was when she was sick. And then I was like, well, why didn't anybody else do this when she did it? So my grandfather didn't do it. And people went into the bank account with the POA and just were, because people just act. They don't act the best when someone passes away. And I was like, oh, this is really easy. And then the last person who passed away was my uncle. And my mother had to go to court for 3 years to like fight with creditors and do all of these things to get the house in her name. And she finally got it.
That same house.
That same house that was passed down. And she finally got it, which was wonderful. She sold it to the nurse who took care of my grandparents. So we can still go see the house, so it's cool. But literally that house, which was my great-grandmother's and passed down, helped my mother last year. She was diagnosed with cancer, stage 3 pancreatic cancer. Literally did not have any retirement because she helped me with school. And that house is what paid for her to be able to do everything that whole year because she didn't work. because she was going through treatment. So thank goodness she's great now. It's gone. But
Wow.
literally my great-grandmother's house is what made sure my mother could relax and do what she needed to do to take care of herself while she was sick. So I just don't think that people realize how much it can help. And I don't think my great-grandmother thought that it would help her grandchild in 2024.
Who she did. So she was your great grandmother. So she was your mom's
Grandmother.
So obviously they had a relationship, and you had a relationship with your great grandmother, which is such a blessing.
Yeah, she passed away when I was like 8, I think.
Okay, she didn't have, but I mean, 8 is like
So,
long
yeah.
enough to. Yeah, that's pretty magical. Yeah, my girls got to meet my granny before she passed, and I think they'll always remember that. And she passed when my little one, I think, was 3, but my big one was 5, and like it was really special to watch that legacy. And I don't think most families have the opportunity for great grandchildren to be, especially now that people are having babies later. Okay, that's an amazing story. And so you saw what a huge difference it made in your mother's life, and just for all of so many generations were protected and were able to, essentially save like a whole bunch of headaches because she went about the steps that you now guide people through. I think it's so fascinating how many of us have created careers that essentially are to heal people in our lineage.
Right.
Anyway, so why do you think your great grandmother knew? Did you ever get to talk? No, because you were 8. You wouldn't have talked to her about estate planning.
No, but
but did you ever know, like, how'd she know to do that?
I think she was the only one. So I don't know any of my grandmother's relatives, like the extended family. But as far as I knew, it was just my grandmother and my great-grandmother, because my grandmother's brother had passed before. Okay. And so she knew she only had one child to give something to, so she wanted to make sure that it went there. And so because we didn't have a lot of family and all those things, I think she just wanted to make sure. And she didn't do like a will. She just put the house in her daughter's name or something like that, because that's what she knew to do.
Yeah.
So I think she just wanted to make sure.
But even doing that made a huge difference for, 3 generations? 3 generations next. And yeah, I mean, that's a phenomenal story.
I have no idea where she got it from.
So what are the myths that people are holding around estate planning that you wish they would understand the truth about?
It sounds wild, but it's almost like people are superstitious, that they think that if they talk about it, then it's going to happen tomorrow.
Like sooner.
Yeah.
Right.
And so they just avoid it, like, well, maybe that will make it not happen. It's like, well, one day
makes
it's
no
going
sense.
to,
right.
it's going, but they'll just, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then
like
they
we're
just
all
won't.
gonna die. Yeah. And if someone is listening, it's one thing to handle their own estate planning, which I think is, we'll get there. I think that's like a slight, maybe I'm wrong. Please correct me if I am. It feels less scary than talking to elders about their estate planning, because it feels like, and I was in a situation, my mom has been really on top of it with her estate planning. She's been talking about it for decades, like she's got it handled. My dad, on the other hand, has a very different relationship with this sort of thing. And so I really have no information about what he would want. And so I knew I needed to be the one to bring it up. And it felt really scary because it felt like if I brought it up, he would misinterpret it as like, I'm wanting to have a conversation about my inheritance, which is not the conversation I'm wanting to have. I'm wanting to have a conversation about what are his desires so that my siblings and I and my bonus mom, his wife, they've been married for 20 years. She's amazing. I want us all to, when it is his time, to be able to come together in love for my dad, in love for each other, and grief, not get into drama about this, that, or the other thing. Now, I will say my bonus mom is a lawyer, so like I'm pretty sure they have this handled. However, I was scared to have that conversation because I didn't want him to misinterpret it. I'm sure I'm not the only one. And so with your sage advice as an expert, what would you want to tell people about how to frame that conversation with their elders so that they can pass along like, so that they can execute on that person's desires when they're gone?
That's a great question. I think it's all in how parents are the parents. They don't want to feel like they're not in control and they're not telling someone what to do. So if they feel like some kind of power is being taken away from them or they feel threatened, if it, when we had to tell my grandmother she couldn't drive, just taking freedoms away, things like that, they're going to be hostile towards it. But I think most parents want to help their children. So if it's like, I don't want to do this wrong. I don't want to make a decision that's not what you would want to happen and you're not giving me any information and I just need your help. If it comes from a place that it's really helping make it easier for you, then I think they'd give the information as opposed to, well, I'm doing this for you. Well, I'm fine. I don't need your help. You're the child. You don't have to help me. I have this handled. If they feel like they're helping you, I think they're more willing to do it.
That's a good reframe. I really like that. So I know a family where the mom died very unexpectedly, and she had multiple factors in her estate, a lot of real estate, a whole bunch of stuff going on. But it was unclear what exactly was meant to happen, whatever. There were 3 kids, adult children, all who have children. And because they hadn't had those conversations ahead of the time that she had passed, it ended up creating a lot of drama between the siblings, who are just absolutely wonderful people, and some estrangement for a while. I'm so grateful that it is now healed. And in a case like that, what are some of the steps that they could have taken both before she passed and after to hopefully prevent some of that drama, just for people listening who are in all sorts of different phases of this?
I think that people have to have the tough conversations, whether it's at Thanksgiving or the parent has to sit there and say, this is what I want. Because whatever animosities or tensions there might have been growing up, it will show up when the person's gone. I have a friend who, there are 3 siblings, and one of them is estranged. And I don't think once the parents are gone, they're going to communicate. But the parents want them to have everything evenly, and they don't think that that's fair. And it's like, well, you can't tell a parent not to give something to their child, right? Yeah. But unless you all have that conversation and kind of work that out ahead of time, then once they're gone, it's going to be insane. And literally, I think parents underestimate how their children will behave if they don't have that conversation. Adult children, like, you just have no idea because you're the one who probably is making everything okay right now. But when you're not there, it's like they can now say what they want to say and whatever animosities there were that hadn't been worked out. And I met she was probably a death doula before there was such a thing. She was like a hospice reverend. And she said, nobody cares about that when they're dying, when it's no one cares about any animosities they had. They just care about being around people that they love and all of those things. And who doesn't want to know that, when you leave, that your family is going to be fine. So you have to do that up front in order to make sure that happens, because they might not work out that way if you don't.
Yeah. So that's if your loved one is living, right? It's like, have the hard conversation, lean in, work that stuff out ahead of time. And I want to talk to you about some of the steps to take legally. But on the back end, let's say someone is in a situation where they didn't have the hard conversation and now it is a mess, and there's possibly lack of the correct paperwork and things are in probate, or, siblings are estranged now, or, misunderstandings. You can never ask a dead person what they wanted. So then, you'll never actually know. Right. So what are some things that could not fix it? 'Cause you should have had the conversation, but anyway, if you didn't, what would you recommend?
Decide what's the most important. I think it's just, you have to decide, is being connected to family important or having this thing? Because you can get more things. You might not ever get another sibling. You might not ever get another grandchild or any of those things. And so if those cufflinks or those whatever are more important than having then that's the choice you made, and you're just going to have to have that. But for most people, I don't think that would be the case.
If you really asked yourself, what would you rather have? This relationship or this item or this cash, right? There is always actually more where that came from. And what about, it's such an interesting psychology, and I'm sure this comes up a lot in your practice, about heirlooms, the grandmother's engagement ring, or these cufflinks, or this china, or these items that do have inherent value, but they seem so much more valuable because of the memories and because they're connected to this other person. And people get really wrapped up emotionally in keeping these items. What do you think is going on there?
There is a attachment to the person. Like, this is my uncle's wedding ring. This is my grandmother's necklace, and I wear them every single day. And my cousin let me have it because he had other things but I just keep them because this reminds me of them, and I can keep it with me because the person is there or is no longer there for me to be able to see or hear or any of those things. And so it just makes you feel like the person's still with you. But again, it goes back to, it's not worth it. It wouldn't be worth it to me if my cousin said he wanted the wedding ring. I would just give him the wedding ring, and I'd get something else that I could keep. Right. I'm not going to. I'd rather have my family for me. Now, sometimes people just are. We get so attached to certain things, and it causes all sorts of problems. And we have to. We will always have the memories. So it's not necessarily this thing that means so much. It's my memories of my grandmother, but. The heirlooms help. I just think that people should, while they like heirlooms and all of those things, just realize that all of this is just stuff. Really, the most important part of our legacy is the memories that we'll leave with people, and the relationships, and how we treated them while we were here, and how we lived life, not the things that we're leaving. Yeah. And so if we kind of look at it like that, then all of this stuff won't mean as much. And cause as many problems.
It's so true. Yeah, like, how can we hold on to the memories and not the things? And if we do have the things, wonderful, but hold them with an open palm.
Right.
How early is too early to start on your estate planning journey?
I'd say it's as soon as you get out of your parents' house, there's some things that you should do, right?
Like what?
If you have a child going to college, now they're an adult, even though they're not an adult. Yeah. And so having a power of attorney or healthcare so that you can still be a parent if something, God forbid, happened to them and you needed to be able to pay bills for them. They might have their own bank account, but now that they're an adult, you can't go in there and just take care of things. So you might need to have something so that you can help your semi-adult manage things if they're not able to. Okay. Or so that they know who's in charge at the hospital if there's an injury or things like that.
Is that called a healthcare directive?
Yeah. Okay. For the healthcare stuff. And then for the power of attorney, I think that's the main thing someone needs for, someone who's doesn't have a lot of assets and it's just a child or something like that, your adult child. And then I think one of the things that people should really have is like just an inventory. Maybe it's just a Google sheet that says what you own. Because sometimes something is wrong and bills might need to be paid and no one knows where any of your stuff is. They don't know where your passwords are. They don't know what bank accounts you have. They don't know what policies there are or anything like that. So just having a running list of that somewhere so it makes it easy for someone who has to handle your business. If you just have that before you have any assets, then cool. It will make it, in case of an emergency, we have something here. Just go find this file and then that's it.
Okay.
And then just as you get older, when you have children, making sure you have guardianship documents in place, a will if you want things to go through probate. So it might change and evolve as you get older and accumulate more things depending on what you want to happen with those things. But in general, everyone should have like a healthcare directive and power of attorney and at least a list of things so that people know who's in charge.
Okay. Like a list of accounts, where the passwords are. Okay, that's really important. Yeah. And, one of the things that I teach is financial clarity. Mm-hmm. And this is an incredibly important step because many people I know, even who make good money, are financial avoiders. Mm-hmm. And they they wouldn't be able to tell you what accounts they have or what's in them or even how to log in many cases. And so that step alone can actually be really empowering just to have the clarity of like, this is what I have. This is where it is. This is how to access it. So that might even, this is occurring to me as we're talking, that might help somebody who is an avoider be like, actually, this is important because if something were to happen to you and you would need this support, then they would have it all sorted. So you could actually lean into it from that perspective when maybe it's hard to do just on your own.
And I'm an avoider. Okay. So like having to do this with clients made me have to sit down and do it because I was like, well, maybe it'll go away. And it doesn't.
It doesn't go away. I'm a recovered avoider. Every now and again I slide back, but like recovering, for sure. And let us be an example that like you can still be on top of these things, even if your default is to be an avoider. That's not a foregone conclusion. Okay. So power of attorney, healthcare directive, your list of accounts, whatever. Then you start, okay, so you have kids, you got to figure out who would take care of them if something were to happen to you. Then you start accumulating assets, whether it's, accounts, houses, whatever's going on, businesses, like all of those things. And so when someone comes to you, what would you say the most surprising thing is for them about the process?
The questions that I ask are not necessarily about, okay, how many accounts do you have? And we're just going to split it up. So what is important? Like, what do you want your children to be able to do with whatever you leave? Or, well, I want them to be able to have a good life, create something okay, so do you want to put some guardrails around? Do you want to help them do that? Because there's statistics that show, people leave inheritances and by the second generation, then it might be gone. It might be because you just gave it to them outright and didn't give them any guidance or things like that. And if you are an avoider, you might not be leaving them guidance about what to do with money, or there might be some trauma with money and all of those things associated. So do you want to give them some guidance? Do you want to put something there to make it a little easier for them in how they use it? Do you want to protect it from creditors, or like so really them having to think about, okay, it's not just giving this away. It's about what's important to you and how you want them to be able to use this. Are we going to give them tools and things like that? Or are you just going to give them something and then they can go, and it just depends on what you want.
I'm so glad you said that. So something that I don't see anybody talking about, other than you right now, is really the underbelly of generational wealth, which is, so I come from a family where on one side, everybody is like an entrepreneur and sort of like figured it out, didn't come from money. And on the other side, there was several generations of generational wealth. By my generation, there's one summer house that is like, has mushrooms growing out of the screen doors. Like it's sort of like, it's not totally falling apart, but it's not. So things have, things change since wherever it originated. And what I notice is that on my mom's side of the family, which is, my mom's the only one of her siblings who graduated college. And everyone has created like a really beautiful life for themselves because embedded in their upbringing was ingenuity, resourcefulness. Here's how you look at the world and create value. And so it was really like the skills under creating wealth and creating, an ability to make something out of nothing, essentially. So like that's been happening over there. And every single one of her siblings are thriving financially, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful to know all of them. They're all entrepreneurs. Other side of the family is just a different story with, a whole bunch of different people and all wonderful. However, like not that same, like, cool, like, let me look at the world and see what I can make here. My dad grew up with a tremendous amount of wealth, and there was quite a bit of trauma in his background because of addiction, and not him personally, but his mom. And it's just so fascinating to see the difference, because I see a group of people who were given so much money, and then group of people who were not. And the difference is profound. And I think it's because handed down with the money was not any education about where money comes from or how to steward it. It was just money. Now, I don't know this personally, so I'm just like making it up. But that's what I surmised with these two very different examples of two very different families. And as I create, a life and I think about my daughters, I'm like, of course, do I want to create something that I would pass along and leave them? Yes, I do. However, I'm very aware that I don't want to just like pass along money. I'd rather give them nothing other than an education about how you create value and turn nothing into something.
Yeah.
Like for sure. And I mean, great. If there are some assets in there, wonderful. But like, not even necessarily, because like you said, there's always more where that came from.
There's always more.
So I'm really glad that you said that. And I think that we can have an assumption that having inherited wealth automatically is better. Can you talk to me a little bit more about any cases that you've seen with generational wealth where it's not automatically better? And I just want to say, obviously passing along wealth is wonderful. I'm not saying it's bad in any way. However,
you can take it for granted, right? That we assume that people know what to do with it just because they had it. But I think when you have a family who had to earn it, they look at it differently, right? And the passing the education, the money can be gone, the money can be spent. That education doesn't go anywhere. And so you can make it again. You can keep making the money over and over again, teaching the man how to fish. I think in my family's example, one of the things that I think that people don't think about, but if they look back it might be in those examples, like we had a pact. Nobody was going in a home. That's why when my grandmother's dementia was in full swing, we put her husband and her ex-husband were in the house. Like everybody was together. Now, if she knew, she probably would have cussed us all out. But at that point, she didn't remember, and we didn't want to put anybody anywhere else. So we had enough room in the house. Everyone was in there together.
Wow.
Grandmother,
how many people?
It was my grandmother, my grandfather, my step-grandfather, my uncle was upstairs. And then the nurse came and took care of all of them because we were like, you're not going anywhere.
Incredible.
And so my mother and I, we all talked about it. Okay, this is what we're going to do. No one's going in a home, like we promise. It's fine. I think that there are things that, I don't know if it's vocalized like the way we did, that we were going to figure it out. But okay, you're going to learn how to work hard. You're going to value this thing. This is what we stand for as a family. This is the kind of thing that we want to do. You being conscious about giving your daughters education so that they can make money or be happy or figure out whatever they want to be able to do. Yes, I can give you these things, but this is what matters to me as your mother, me passing this down to you. I think that if we're a little more conscious about that, then we can make sure that when they have it, they're not looking at it like, yeah, I got this thing and I can spend it and this is great. It's like, okay, this is something that my mother earned, that she gave to me. So I need to be a good steward of it because it matters to me what happens to it. It mattered to my mother who she sold the house to because it was her grandmother's house. So she sold it to someone who she knew would take care of it. You're not going to just treat it like something that you're just going to make a profit from when you know what it means. And so I don't know that we always communicate what these things mean to us or what, if this is my life's work and it has created this life for us, then what I don't want you to do is just act like everything that I did didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
And so I think children can see those things sometimes and they might learn it by osmosis, but I think sometimes we have to talk about it and so that it's clearer and that we're purposefully educating them to make sure that they know how to take care of it and then they can pass it on.
Yeah. And like you said, like instructions. Okay, so this is, and I know people who, have inheritance of whatever from different things. And there's like all sorts of different guidelines and boundaries and rules of like, okay, you get this now and it's only to be spent on education, and then this, that, and the other thing. And I think like just even the act of thinking those things through with an estate lawyer, with a financial team is such a profound exercise in getting closer to your heart and in getting closer to what matters to you. Because asking the sorts of questions that you ask of clients is, I'm sure, a pretty profound experience for them. And it's asking questions that we don't always think about every single day. And it's like, great. What does matter to me? What are my values? If I'm no longer here, what would I do? And what do I want to be done with my wealth, with my assets, as kind of like something I left behind and as something that's like still carrying on my legacy? And I think we can be asking ourselves those questions before we have gathered up a bunch of assets. And in my philosophy is the closer you get to the real meat of your values and like the taproot of who you are, the more magnetic you will become to being able to call in those assets, because they're feeling gathered and magnetized to the clarity and the purpose of someone who's going to steward them well and align their spending and their investing with their values. Yeah. This is such an important piece. And I think it's something that people avoid a lot just because of our own, conditioning around death and what it means. Something that's come up, with another lawyer friend of mine who specializes in online business law, is that a lot of people are starting to think like, oh, now I have AI. So like, I'm sure I can just like write my will with ChatGPT or like create this, that, and that document with, I'm sure it's fine. It's ChatGPT. Like it knows, right? Okay. So tell me, can we be doing our estate planning with ChatGPT?
I think I'd say there are some things that require humans, just at the end of the day. And it might ask questions. It's pulling from resources that have been provided to it by humans. So it can give you some things. There are plenty of websites that will allow you to do it yourself, but if they're not going to dig deep enough, it depends on what you want to do. And I think sometimes you get what you pay for. And it's the experience. It's the questions that are being asked of you. It is the getting that clarity that you're talking about, because you walk out of there a different person when you know that you did this for your family, and you have to think about all of these things, and it changes how you look at some of those relationships. At the end of our process, we have clients do legacy interviews. And so they pick the questions and we sit down and talk to them, and we have to edit me out because I'll be crying or something like that, because it's really profound to sit there and listen to them say, I never thought about my legacy before, but this is what I want you to remember. And this is what I feel like my life stood for, and all of these things. And for people to be able to have that, they can go in. I think when you contemplate death, it makes you live your life differently, because every moment is not promised. That time that you get to play with your daughter is that moment, and you might not get that again. So you're going to look at that differently when you think about the fact that you might not be here. So I think that is not going to come from AI.
No.
Yeah.
No, and all of those reasons are so profound because they're so human. And then also logistically, like a legal document that ChatGPT spat out at you is not necessarily accurate and not necessarily going to hold up in court, I would imagine.
Yeah, and it can probably tell you things like that. You can go to, some of those websites that will allow you to put some information in, and then maybe you can talk to a lawyer. I'd still have someone do it, because death is such a human thing. I just would want to talk to another person about it and go through those things. But for some people, if they're comfortable with it, that's fine. I just would never tell anyone maybe not.
Yeah.
I would probably skip it.
Absolutely. As an estate lawyer, can you work with only people in your state, or can you work with people across state lines?
So I have co-counsel in not all 50, but a lot of states.
Okay.
So I have clients who are across the United States, and then I work with attorneys who are local, and then we get the job done.
Okay, great. So if someone is looking and really wanting this kind of process that is very human, that is super value centered, that is going to help them like actually take some incredibly important, I'm going to say healing steps and like make their experience of their life better, they could reach out to you. And if it can't be you, you would be able to refer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, amazing. And where would they do that?
My website is thesaundersfirm.com, and then our number 678-680-4336. They'll set up a call, and then I do the discovery call and facilitate everything.
So
yeah.
we'll put that in the show notes. Okay, so as we wrap up here, you know, knowing that you're speaking to an audience of all different ages, but mostly 35 to 65, primarily women, right? So we are the caregivers. We are the people who end up taking care of the people.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The many of the logistics often, you know, come on our plate. What would you want to say to this particular group about your line of work and what they need to do about it now?
It's always going to be us, in my opinion. It was my great-grandmother, then my grandmother, then my mother. So I wouldn't leave it to anyone else. And we're worth the effort of trying to figure this out and giving, even if it's your parents, so that you have the space to be able to grieve in whatever way you need to without having to go rush to court and do all of those things. You can take that time, do all of those things. So however difficult it is, you and your family are worth whatever time it takes to get that done.
So good. And the earlier, the better.
The earlier,
like, let's not wait until someone's sick or
until
something's
you
going
have
down.
to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to make decisions then.
Like, do it now when people are healthy and present.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Plenty. If you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe, leave a rating, leave a review. That's one of the best ways that you can ensure to spread the abundance of plenty with others. You can even text it to a friend and tell them to listen in. And if you want even more support to expand your abundance, head over to katenorthrup.com/breakthroughs, where you can grab my free money breakthrough guide that details the biggest money breakthroughs from some of the top earning women I know, plus a mini lesson accompanying it with my own biggest money breakthroughs and a nervous system healing tool for you to expand your abundance. Again, that's over at katenorthrup.com/breakthroughs. See you next time.